Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the video. I promised you my climb to Master 1. I have all the stats here. I also want to show you the last replay that I had, or the last game that I had until when I reached Master 1. I have learned a lot and I also want to talk about that. But let's just hop right into the data. Let me explain you a bit how my climb worked. So I played Dragon Link for 66 games, as you can see here. Then I played Sprite for 99 games. I also played Tier for 10 games when I was in Master 5, but switched relatively fast. So I started in Platin 5 because Mastering was newly introduced, and last season I didn't play that much, so all of us started in Platin 5. And at first, and I have no data for that, I played the new Despia deck, which then I wanted to change because in my opinion it needed a lot of cognitive resource. I really needed to think a lot when I played the deck, and I figured, okay, I cannot go for 20 games a day when I play Despia. So then, because I wanted to try it, I switched to Dragon Link and I played this from Diamond 3 to Master 5. So until then I basically went with the Despia strategy and then switched to Dragon Link. And all in all, I played Dragon Link 66 games. I went first 75% of the time, 83 times, second 28 times, and 43%. So you can see I was, when playing Dragon Links, really lucky when it comes to going first. My overall win rate with Dragon Link was 85.2%, and my win rate going second was 53. My win rate going first, 63. So this is the first thing I want to talk about. I mean, you can see that when we are looking at Sprite down here, Sprite had a better going first, like 20% better going first rate than going second rate, but here we have only 10% difference. So the first thing I learned when I did this climb is going second is not that bad as many people think, and going first is not like you auto win every time, because what you have to understand is that I basically played out every game that I played, and you will see this in the last replay. I will show you the last game to Master 1. I also played this out till the last. I think if you want to go Master 1, you should do that. You should play out every game until the game is over. Like sometimes when my opponent made some big boards that I knew I had no further interruption for, I just let him play. I went to my kitchen, made myself a coffee or something, and then I looked at it, and I was thinking, okay, how can I break the board? I tried it, and sometimes it worked. But the amount of times in which I, for example, won because my opponent just surrendered because they didn't need to, maybe they made a misplay, or because they disconnected, or because their time ran out, this gave me some free wins. And I would say to you, if you really want to go for Master 1, then play out every game and don't give up early. If I would have given up early, I would have not been Master 1 right now, and you will see this in the replay I will show you. So, as I already said, going second is not that bad as many people think, because there can also be the case that you are going second and your opponent bricks, because every deck bricks sometimes. With Sprite, I have experienced the least amount of bricking, also Dragon Link, also not that bricky. Despia and Tier, these decks are really bricky in my experience when playing them, really bricky. So there will be a lot of times when you are going first and you just brick, and then you have to pass over to your opponent and then he can make his plays. Or your opponent bricks while going first, and then you basically get to play and you win, and he was going first but you were going second and then just win. Or the classic Max C example where your opponent throws a Max C and you have nothing to counter it, and then you basically only have, for example, a swap frog on the field and pass with a swap frog and maybe an impermanence on the field, and then you lose the game. So going first does not mean that you will win, and going second doesn't mean that you will lose. I had a lot of games in which neither side could make on their first turn such an impressive board that the opponent couldn't break it. Sometimes you don't brick fully, but you brick like halfway, so you maybe get 1 or 2 interruptions on the field, and then you have to pass over to your opponent, and then maybe he can break you. So going second, of course, you can see it by the win rate here, it is worse than going first, but it's not that bad as I have thought. So I have seen, this is a resource I used a lot, Master Duel Meta, and then went to top decks and went to Master 1 decks, and this is also where I had my lists from that I then changed a bit as I saw fit. And there I saw a guy who played Dark Magician, and he also played some Sprite, and with the Sprite deck he had 90% win rate going first and like 30% win rate going second, which I thought was crazy. As you can see here with me, it's way closer, and this was really surprising to me. So in the end, I think having max C in the game maybe isn't that bad. It always seems bad, but in overall terms, you can see that it kind of equals out, at least when we are looking at my numbers. Yeah, keep in mind, these are my numbers, not like numbers that count for everyone, obviously. All in all, I had an 85.2% win rate. I think if you play it better, and I definitely could have played it better when it comes to Sprite, I could have had a better win rate. A pro would basically, I guess, have maybe a 65 or maybe 70% win rate and need less games than I did. But especially with Sprite, I made some misplays, especially in the start when I learned the deck. But yeah, this is something I really want to say to you. Don't give up in your games when you're going second, when maybe you brick in on your first turn. A lot of times I bricked on my first turn and I basically had to pass over to my opponent with no interruption. Like, I had no interruption in hand, had to pass over to my opponent, but he also was bricking and then maybe made one play and passed over to me. So always play your games out. And what you have to understand, and I will go over these numbers a bit more in a second, but one important thing I learned is that you have to see every game in the greater context. So you will lose a game, you will brick as hard as you can in the game. Maybe you have a game where you can go from Master 3 to Master 2 and you're going first and you're like, yeah, going first, and you brick so hard and you're like so demoralized. Don't get demoralized. If you have a good or a positive win rate overall, which you can see I had here, 85.2%. If you have a positive win rate overall, you will reach Master 1. It is part of the game that you will have moments or lose streaks. I had 2 times I had like a 9-game win streak, and 1 time I had an 8-game lose streak. This was tough. I was in Master 3 with Sprite and then dropped down back to Master 5 in an 8-game lose streak. And this is where I switched over to tier elements, because I was like, oh, maybe Sprite isn't it. Then I played tier 4, as you can see here, 10 games. I went 50-50, 50 wins, 50 loses, 50%. And I was like, okay, I don't think tier is the big thing right now. I didn't like playing the deck, and then I switched back to Sprite and never switched back from there. So the reason why I switched from Dragon Link, the Master 5 to Sprite, because in Master 5 I had so many games with Dragon Link and I didn't climb. I could not climb up. So I was like, oh, okay, let's just change. But as you can see, the overall win rate is basically it's the same as with Sprite, but I think Sprite was a stronger deck, or is a stronger deck, as these games were in higher elo rankings than were these games. Dragon Link is a strong deck. It's really nice. It's super nice against tier elements. And this is when I was in Master 2. I met a lot of tier elements players. I had a lot of tier elements matchups, and there I was considering for a moment switching back to Dragon Link, because the matchup is really nice, but I didn't. But guys, just view it in the overall picture. There will be tough losing streaks. So I had this tough losing streak. And the other thing is, if you are noticing that you're getting fucked up with playing the game, that you are like, oh, you are complaining about everything that doesn't go your way, step back from the game. It doesn't really matter. You can't concentrate when you are really fucked up. Once I became fucked up because something didn't work, I paused and get back it again. So what I'm basically saying is that you cannot be mad or cannot be angry when it comes to sheer luck. Your hand, going first, going second, your opponent's hand, this is all luck, and you have to basically accept luck as part of the process. You cannot be mad at having a bad hand, because if your deck is built goodly, if you have a good deck with good ratios, then you will most likely have a good hand in most cases, but there will be bad hands. And don't be angry, don't be pissed. Don't be pissed if your opponent throws the third max C at you at the third turn and you can't play. This happens, but this will not happen all the time, but this happens sometimes. There will be cases in which you can do the same thing. So just see every game in the overall picture, the overall climb to Master 1. But as I already said, you can see here with Dragon Link, my win rate going second was not that bad. Going first, 63. Then I had Sprite here. I went first only 48% of the time, so I went second more often, and my win rate going second was only 50%, while my win rate going first was 70%. Overall win rate 85.5. I think this is over the like general Sprite win rate, which, if the numbers can be trusted, should be somewhere around 53%. And this is another cool thing I noticed about the game. I also there's also a website where you can see the statistics from Dueling Book. So Dueling Book is a website from the TCG where you can play the TCG, and they also have some numbers, and the best deck, Kashtira, there at the moment has a 61% win rate, and the other decks are all in the 50 category. So I had this impression that maybe Yu-Gi-Oh! Was way more imbalanced than games like Hearthstone, which I played before, but the numbers don't show this. And these are like 58% win rate, 58% win rate. These are like normal win rates that you can get by getting better with the deck, that you can get by playing one of the best decks. I think Telemans, I think Telemans will have around the same, maybe a bit lower win rate overall, maybe a bit higher, but Telemans will not have like a 70% win rate in the deck having like 85 till 60% win rate. That's totally fine. It's not overpowered. It's not too good to be true. Of course, a deck with a 60% win rate is the best deck in the meta and should be tuned down a bit. That's for sure, and that's also what happens in Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering, which I also played for a while. But this is totally fine. This is not like there are not decks that have like 70% win rate or some shit like that. So I think the balance in the game overall is also, when it comes to going second and going first, is way better than I thought. This is what I learned about the game. The game is way more fair than I thought it was, but you can't really see it because there are these games in which you get max-seed, or there are like 3 games in a row in which your opponent throws you a max-seed and you cannot answer the max-seed and you lose the game, and then you think the game is so imbalanced. But in the overall terms, it really isn't, at least when it comes to my numbers, at least what I have seen here. Of course, you could have different numbers, and then I would be really interesting in if you show me them. So yeah, overall win rate 85, going second 50, and going first 70.8. We will go over these because I also collected against which decks I played. Here, when I played Sprite, I didn't do this when I played Dragon Link. I will do this in the future, because in the future, when maybe we'll get Kashtira, I will climb with Kashtira, and then I will also do these statistics. I really like that. Let's just first talk about tier. I only played 10 games with tier, went first 4 times 40%, second 6 times 60%, overall win rate 50%. What can I say about this deck? As I already said, I don't think it's the big thing right now. I don't think it's super great, and I at the moment I don't enjoy playing it. I enjoy playing Sprite way more. I enjoy playing Dragon Link a lot. I also enjoy playing Despia, though Despia is always it's such a complicated deck. It's by far the most complicated deck that you can play here, I think. Sprite is also quite complicated, though I thought that Sprite is more complicated than is Dragon Link, and after playing both of these decks for a considerable amount of games, 99 and 66, I think these are numbers that you can make some sayings about the deck, that you can say something about the deck. I think in terms of difficulty, they are not that far apart. Sprite, you basically always build your same end board, and then you have to decide where you want to interrupt your opponent. So Sprite is then more effective if you really know the decks of your opponent, and if you really know how to use your interruptions. Dragon Link has not that many interruptions, at least not as many as Sprite has. And then we had the specifics here, Sprite. So overall, the games I played Sprite, I played against Telemans 18 games. Oh, I wrote Spiele here, but this is games, Spiele in Germany. 18 games, 66.6% win rate, and you can see this is basically my best win rate if we like exclude Dragon Link, which only I had 2 games against, so not really something you can speak to. And if we exclude Flu, which I only had 5 games against, which also so what I did here is I thought about, okay, which will be the most likely decks I will face. I came up with Tier, Sprite, Dragon Link, Flu, Despia, and then I had these andere category, which also I didn't. It's like everything else, like everything that is not these mentioned before. And I faced a lot of other decks, crazy decks like stun decks, some 60-pile mill decks. I played against some 60-pile mill decks that milled me on their first turn without me activating Maxi, and I was like, okay, I will sit here, I will watch the whole game. Maybe you make a misplay, maybe you will give up, maybe you disconnect. I will get this win if I can get it. Keep at the game if you can. Stay in the game as long as you can. That's at least my opinion. You could also go another route and say, okay, I will scoop early so I have less time invested in a game that's lost. Okay. So Telement, 18 games, 66.6% win rate. I was going first 8 times, going second 10 times. So as you can see here, I didn't even had a positive record when it came to going first. So I think this shows how like weak the deck is right now, Telements that is, because I don't think that Sprite is super strong against Telements, and I only played 3 Bystials, and there was also a time where I played the Gamma package instead of the Bystial package. So I think this number really shows how bad Telement is at the moment. Then my worst matchup, my hardest matchup for sure, was against Sprite, where I went first 7 times, going second 11 times. This was especially devastating, because if you go second against Sprite and they build up a really impressive board, then you can basically not break it. 55.5% win rate. These were really nice grindy matchups. Then we had Dragon Link, only two games, so I expected a lot more Dragon Links, didn't see it. I think Dragon Link is a really strong deck that you can climb Master with quite easily, though Dragon Link has not the greatest matchup against Sprite, and Sprite is a deck that is around a lot. Because you can basically only Bystial the Jet and the Blue. That's not that impactful, way more impactful against Tia and some of the other decks like Despia. So 2 games, 100% win rate first, 1 second one. So yeah, nothing I can really say, because these numbers are too low. Obviously these numbers are basically also too low to make a good conclusion. You would need at least, I think, 30, so we can make the with 30 you could make some statistical analysis when it comes to correlations and stuff. But yeah, a bit low in the numbers to really say anything about this, but you can see a trend here, I would say. Then I had against Flu, 5 games, 80% win rate, going first 3 times, going second 2 times. Yep. Flu will also get hit with the new ban list, as I already showed you in the new video. Check it out. And then I had Despia, 21 games, the most games against Despia, though. Note here that 1 or 2 times I played against some Despia tier hybrid, and I think once I categorized it as tier and the other times as Despia. So there is some, yeah, or maybe it was a Despia deck with some other, with like punk stuff in it. So it's not super clear cut here, but most of the decks were pure Despia decks. 21 games, 75.1% win rate, going first 13 times and going second 8 times. So yeah, I had a really good going first rate against Despia. I think if I had a worse going first rate, my win rate here would have been worse. As you can see, the deck is quite nice. The Sprite against Despia matchup is not that great. Your Telement matchup seems to be way better. And then I played against other decks, 30 games, 85.8% win rate, going first 70 times and going second 13 times. So you can see here is my positive going first rate, and here are the negative, or the more negative going first rates here in the upper category. So yeah, this basically reflects my experience. As I already said, Tia is not that great anymore. You can see it in the win rate. I think my conclusion here, Sprite really strong deck, will get hit. Despia, I'm surprised that this win rate is that low. Maybe the Sprite versus Despia matchup isn't that great. In my experience, I would say it's relatively evenly matched. Haha. Evenly matched matchup. So yeah, these are the numbers. It was really fun. It was really hard. It took me around 1 week of, or maybe a week and a half of really intense grinding. And when I say intense grinding, I mean playing like 4 hours a day or something in the evening. When I had time, I sat myself down, played 4 hours, and you really, this is like an exercise in meditation. You really cannot take anything that happens on the ladder personally. If you start to take anything of these luck-based things, going first, max seeing, your opponent max sees you, you can't stop it, blah blah blah. If you take anything personally, then it's over. You have to see it in the whole picture. If you have a positive win rate, if you are a good player, or if you maybe improve yourself while playing on the ladder, you will get to Master 1. You will get there. Just be patient. Just don't flip out. Just don't be aggressive. Just focus on the play. And another thing I would say is learn from your mistakes. So if I did something in a game and I was like, okay, that was not optimal, that I could have done in a different way, could have done better, then I just went to the replay straight after the game, watched the replay and thought, okay, what could I have done differently here? What line could have also gone for, and was this a better line or was this a better line? I also once calculated in my head and thought about whether I want to summon a Swap Frog from my Gigantic Sprite, or whether I want to summon a Sprite Blue. So I was comparing these lines. So if I do I want to summon a swap frog when I only have a sprite blue that can search me a sprite carrot? Obviously, if you can search a sprite blue, then your jet, then your starter, then your carrot or red, then this line is always better. But if you can only search sprite blue and then a carrot, then you can argue about, it's still better by the way, but then you could argue or at least think about if you want to summon a swap frog, which can then dump the Ronin totem, or if you want to summon the sprite blue. So this, for example, were things I thought about. I basically calculated that in my head to come to a conclusion so I can use the knowledge for the next game. But yeah, so let's just only to show that I'm really Master 1, no. But let's just hop right in. In the last game I did here, the game I went Master 1 with, which is also super fun because so firstly, I was on a Discord with a friend of mine. I played and he watched me. So he also plays Yu-Gi-Oh! So I played against the Master 1 guy and I went first. And I was saying to my friend, oh, maybe he just gives up. Maybe he just gives up and gives me the game, because I think that is maybe what I would do if I see something, if I see someone who has his last game to Master 1 and I am already Master 1, I cannot lose anything, and he also goes first. I'm like, oh, okay, just have the game. So we can quickly look at my opponent's deck. He played some Scareclaw, Visa Starfrost, Scareclaw deck, Reichphobia, I don't know. So this is basically Master 1. In Master 1 you can do whatever you want because you cannot lose, you cannot derank. But let's just hop right into the game. And there is something I can show you here, which I already talked about, which is so important. So I was going first, and what you can see here right now is what happened to me a lot when I had some games where I could go to the next stage, so Master 3 to Master 2. Look at my hand, it's a brick. I can do nothing. I can only summon the Angler and then I can do nothing. I cannot go into my sprite line. So here I was sitting and thinking about this with my friend, and I was thinking about whether I want to play the Angler. So my friend was like, until I played my first card, I thought about this for 40 seconds. Keep that in mind. And I was thinking about whether I want to play the Angler so he can maybe max C me, and if he max Cs me, then I can use my Triple Tactics talent to maybe draw 2 and maybe draw into a play. So this was my thought, and my friend was like, just play the Angler, so maybe then if he has max C, he will throw the max C and you can use Triple Tactics. And I was like, okay, yeah, I could do that, but the Angler, playing the Angler with 600 attack, if he doesn't go for max C, will not save me the next turn. So if he builds an oppressive board and he attacks me, I don't think that one Nimble Angler with 600 attack, because I obviously have to play it in attack mode, will save me when he attacks me. And I was thinking, if I get a second turn, if I can stop him with the Ash, with the Cordba, with the Imperm, which are 3 interrupts. I mean, Cordba is a bad interrupt, but these interrupts are not that bad. And my thought process was, if I can manage to interrupt him, I maybe can draw a second, okay, maybe can draw a sprite monster, and then I can go for my sprite line. Because just imagine if I just draw sprite blue here and I have this on the field and it's destroyed by my opponent in his battle phase, then I once again have a brick hand. So I was thinking about whether I keep the Angler in hand or I'm not keeping the Angler in hand. In the end, I decided to keep it in hand, just set the because my thought process once again was this will not be enough to stop him from killing me. And after 40 seconds of thinking about it, I was like, he will probably, even if he has max C, not throw the max C, because now I thought 30 seconds about this play. So we are changing, and this will come to a funny conclusion. So the first thing he does is Foolish Burial. I start thinking, okay, do I Ash this? I'm like, okay, maybe it's Despia, maybe it's Tearlament. So my thought process was, if he goes Despia, then I can still Ash, for example, the Branded Fusion, which this will then end up on. And if it's Tearlament, he can go and dump the Trap card, and then he can get his Rhino Heart, play the Rhino Heart, and then I can interrupt the Rhino Heart here. So I was like, okay, I'm not interrupting this. And then he pitches this into the grave, the Water Enchantress of the Temple. I'm not super familiar with the adventure engine. My friend was, so he was like, okay, you can Ash this, and if he doesn't have the spell card in hand, he cannot make his token, basically. So I Ashed this. He Gammas me, which is really bad, because obviously now he gets his adventure engine online, and he also gets Gamma and Driver, which together, this is a tuner and Gamma is level 6, so you basically, if you have the Access 5 Stardust Dragon, have basically Baron the Floor now live. So I was like, okay, this looks really bad. And at this point, my friend was like, okay, just scoop the game up, just give it up, the game is lost. And it really looks lost. Now, to be honest, it really looks lost, because now he will get his adventure engine. And I was like, no, this game ends if my life points are at 0, or otherwise it will not end. And I also thought, like, maybe the guy will let me win at some point, because he knows that it's my game to climb. So he goes for Rite of Aramis here, plays the Rite, token, and now, for some strange reason, he plays Visa's Starfrost. He needs to tribute something, and he tributes his token. And I was like, heh? Doesn't he need the token to use his adventure engine fully? I was a bit confused. But this was when I thought, okay, maybe I can still win the game. He goes for Scareclaw Lightheart to search the planet. I interrupt him here. I do not know the deck really well, but I know that the planet is quite impactful, the field spell, so I interrupt him with the Imperm here. And now I'm like, okay, this could be the Baron line. And this is the fun one, he throws the Maxi, so he probably had the Maxi, so maybe the Angler play and baiting the Maxi was the right play after all, but he goes into Baron. I'm like, okay, this will be tough, this will be so tough, and it will be tough. He destroys my Cult by activate this to get the driver out of the grave, so he can no longer use this for Gamma. But yeah, to be honest, I guess Gamma will never ever come up again, but what else could I have called by here? So I called by this, and yeah, we will see what I draw here. Destroying this, and now the situation, it looks just bad. So there's interruption, I have nothing here. And he sets 2 cards. I can unfortunately not see what they are, because I was like, oh, please don't be Imperm. So I draw, and I draw a Bieber, okay. And here was my thought process. So my plan was to somehow get the Triple Tactics live, and then do something with it, possibly draw 2, and then maybe draw into something I can use. So I started with my Nimble Beaver here, hoping that he would destroy it with his Baron. He does, makes sense, because if I have another Sprite play, I then, if you only, like, if for example this is an Imperm, he Imperms me here, then I can, if I have another Sprite card, play the Sprite card. So he interrupts and destroys my Beaver, and now my Tactic Talents is live. And I think, like, okay, I have to draw 2, and I basically need Sprite Starter here. So I draw 2. He doesn't ash me or something, I draw Sprite Starter. I'm like, yes. I play Sprite Starter, and I'm like, please don't ash me, please don't ash me. I go for this, and now I'm really scared of him having Impermanence. I activate blue, and he scoops the game, letting me win, and I go to Master Mode. So I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure what he had here on the field. Maybe there was an Imperm, and he was like, okay, let him just win. But maybe there was no Imperm. I mean, maybe those were just bluff cards, and if that is the case, then obviously I could have gone into, I don't know, a Zeus, cleared the whole field, and then maybe won the game in the long run. So this is the game I went to Master 1 with, but this is a really good illustration of don't give up. Don't give up your games, just play your games. Then they will take a bit longer, but just try to win, because sometimes things like this happen, and you basically win a game that looked unwinnable in the beginning. This is exactly what I talked about. You will brick with decks, and even though Sprite is a really consistent deck, you will brick with it, but it still worked. Master 1, here we are, a really crazy climb. It was a lot of fun. I can only say to you, go for it, try it, but focus on it. So I never did something, I was 100% focused on the games. I never like watched any series or had some like podcast on. I always had the game music on, which I think is quite nice. It really draws you into the game. And yeah, that was my climb to Master 1. I will do this again next season. I will also do another deck statistics next season. Probably if we get Kashtira, we will play only Kashtira, but we will also get the new Labyrinth support. And Kashtira, I have played Kashtira a lot, or a bit at least, on Dueling Nexus, maybe like 50 games, and it gets a bit stale after some time. It's a bit like Sword Soul, where you always make the same board if you can. Maybe I will also play Labyrinth to climb, because I really love the deck, though the games will probably be a bit longer. But yeah, this was my climb. I hope you liked the video. Please, if you want to support me and like the content, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and activate the notification bell. This really helps me out a lot. Hope you liked the video, and we will see each other in the next one.